All right, so let's dive in and create some patterns inside Marvelous Designer. So to get create to create shapes in Marvelous Designer, let's reach out to this panel under the 2D pattern window and just click on this icon. You will see three shapes: polygon, rectangle, and ellipse. So let's start with the rectangle. And the one method you can draw the rectangle is just click and hold down the click and just drag your mouse to either side. This will allow you to create a rectangle, and just release the mouse button so you get a nice rectangle on your 2D pattern window as well as the 3D window. So now if you want to move this rectangle, just hit A on the keyboard. This will allow you to transform this rectangle in a way you can change the size of the rectangle. You can rotate the rectangle, or you can move or position it anywhere on the layout. And in order to uh, move it in your 3D window, just click on the rectangle and you can move it and rotate it, but you cannot change the size in this in the 3D window, which is, by the way, a very logical thing, that you have all the editing uh, flexibilities or editing tools in the 2D window. So uh, it is very easy to change, to access things in a parallel projection, which is, by the way, a 2D space. So I'm sorry, 2D layout, and it's very difficult to uh, arrange things in or do editing in a 3D space. So the scale parameter is off in the 3D window, and yeah. So now this rectangle, we don't know the size of the rectangle. Okay, so if I want to create a rectangle as per my dimensions, so what I have to do is I just have to again start the rectangle and just click and release the mouse button. So you will see that dialog box will appear, and here you have a size section where you can dial in the values for the width and height and to create this rectangle. So let's say if I want to create a 12 by 12-inch rectangle, I can just dial in the width parameter 12 and in the height parameter 12 and hit enter and click OK. So we got this nice little 12-inch by 12-inch rectangle in our 2D window. And yes, obviously, if I just hit spacebar in our 3D window, this will simulate these rectangles, and all of this will fall on the ground and will act as a fabric. Okay, so let's delete these rectangles and let's create another one. So if I click and release my mouse button, you will see that we have a section of size as well as a section of replicate. But in the size, before going to discuss this replicate section, in the size section, we have this small link symbol or chain symbol. If I click on this, now these two dimensions are linked together. And if I just dial in or change any of the parameter, let's say I change the width to 10 inches, um, it's the height will also change to that. So if you want to create squares, you can just link these two dimensions, or if you want to create a rectangle, just unlink this, and you can change the height parameter to something else. Now, in the replicate section, you can see that we have three different options. We have interval, we have an angle, and a number of shapes. So if I want to create, let's say, 10 number of shapes or 10 copies of this rectangle, I just dial in 10 uh, on the keyboard, and from the keyboard. So you can see that all the rectangles are overlapping each other, and it's difficult to see our main rectangle. So what so this the spacing is controlled by this parameter interval, and for now we have a 1.5 inch interval, which is, by the way, very small. So if I want to keep in spacing of 1.5 inch, I just have to add the this interval in the previous dimension. So let's say if we have a square, and we are let's say we have a square of 10 by 10. Let's unlink this, and 10 by 10 inches. And if I want to space all the squares, spacing of 1.5 inch, so what I have to do is I have to just add 10 and 1.5. So this will become 11.5 inch. And now we have a nice spacing of 1.5 inch between each of these rectangles. So if don't want any spacing, I can just write 10. So you can see we don't have any space between these rectangles. And the third option will do some thing like if I want to add a number of copies on any specific direction. uh, so you can see if I dial in 45, the number of copies will be at an angle of 45. So this might be very handy if you are going to uh, draw a pattern on a like sleeve, or anything. So you have to you don't have to place individual uh, rectangle in that specific angle. So let's keep it 90 and hit OK. So this will create 10 copies of this little rectangle on our screen. Now, as I hit or press A on my keyboard, all these rectangles will be selected at once. Now, if I want to select a single rectangle, I just have to click anywhere on the layout, and then I have to click again on any rectangle. So with this, you have selected this rectangle. And if you want to select all the rectangles at once, you just have to create a window selection. So click, hold, and drag. Then just make sure that all the rectangles will come inside this dotted window. Uh, if not, then Marvelous Designer will not select any of these rectangles. So make sure to just bring all the rectangles, all the shapes inside this dotted window. All right. And if you want to select multiple rectangles, just click and hold down Shift, and just click on the alternate shapes. So this way you can select multiple copies individually. And if you want to deselect any of the rectangles, so you can just hold down Shift again and click on the shape again. This will deselect that shape, or you can just simply click on the on the layout, anywhere on the layout.